What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last month or two, there have been quite a few leaks getting out there from Sony. Obviously, we saw Last of Us Part 1, but even before that, God of War Ragnarok had like its special editions just dropped out there on the internet. Well, now it appears that Sony could be dealing with a pretty serious security breach, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the reports that are going over the next big game that's going into development from the Marvel Universe, and we're also going to be talking about that Square Enix game that keeps leaking out. Well, it leaked again, this time though, with screenshots. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Roller Champions. Talked about him yesterday, how there was a report saying that it was just shutting down. Actually, this season that's ongoing would basically be the last one. But it appears that we have an update from Roller Champions. We can see this post up on Twitter saying, "Hello Champions, let's clear it out of the way first. Roller Champions isn't getting canceled, and Ubisoft fully supports it." They have like an image that goes over this in more detail, but essentially the current season, that being Disco Fever, will just be lengthened indefinitely as they work on, well, the game itself. And I mean, if you're Roller Champions, you're not going to come out and say, yeah, that report was correct, we're shutting down, we'll see you guys on whatever we work on next. Ubisoft, I think, still wants to have live service games as like their core business strategy. And if you want to have confidence going forward for any new one you start up, you can't just go canceling other ones like a month or two really after they've gone live. So even if they have plans to shut this down in the near future, I don't think they're going to say it until they're like right up against like a week out or something. And they'll be like, oh yeah, we're shutting down next week and we'll see what we have for you guys with our next game. But at least for now, Roller Champions is, well, it's rolling along. Oh, and if you've started up your Xbox in the last day or two, you may have noticed that it actually booted up faster than usual. And apparently that's from a recent update. In fact, we have a comparison video here from The Verge with Microsoft speeding up boot times up to 5 seconds faster on the Xbox Series, and it appears that it has more of a substantial speed up even on the Xbox One generation of consoles. This, according to Jake Rosenberg, who's the senior product manager lead at Xbox. And the thing with the Xbox Series system is I usually just have it on like instant on mode to where it will pull patches and updates for games in the dashboard. So it starts up immediately anyway. Basically, that's just sleep mode for the system. I'm curious how many people just completely shut it down to where you would go through this animation. Generally, that's from like a cold boot, start. So I'm curious how many people will necessarily notice this, but I mean, it's nice. It's a good update. Technically, it gets you from it being off to the dashboard even faster, and that's a good thing. Oh, and it looks like Lord of the Rings Gollum has been delayed a few months. We can see this post up over on Twitter, where they say, "We are dedicated to meeting our community's expectations and covering the untold story of Gollum in a way that honors the vision of J.R.R. Tolkien. That being said, in order to deliver the best possible experience, we have decided to push the release of Lord of the Rings Gollum by a few months. We will update you with an exact timing in the near future." I am curious how many people are really excited for Gollum. I just haven't seen much conversation online about it, really anything for it. So I think initially it got some buzz because it was one of like the first PlayStation 5 games that was shown off. We had some screenshots and people were like, I guess that looks like a PS5 game. It wasn't necessarily impressive, and it just hasn't been anything that like I've really kept up to date with because it just seems kind of uninteresting. But who knows? Maybe the delay will help them out a bit. I'm thinking this is going to end up sometime in 2023. Maybe January or February, but I guess we'll wait for a new release date. Originally, it was coming out September 1st, so a few months, maybe December, maybe January, we'll see. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and their potential security breach that they are probably dealing with right now, as it looks like a lot of information is kind of just floating around out there and even being shopped around. This was mentioned actually on a podcast, Xbox Era, with Nick Baker and Jeff Grubb. We can see this posted up. This is over on PlayStation Lifestyle, where they say Sony may have a little bit of an issue, a security problem. Baker says in the video above, with Grubb chiming in to agree. Baker added that he's been getting offers for numerous other Sony first-party leaks and then teased an upcoming God of War Ragnarok leak. Both Grubb and Baker then agree that someone has gotten a hold of something at Sony, and there was some internet sleuthing going on here, and eventually it was pointed out that a couple of months ago, there was a laptop hard drive, about 100 gigabytes worth of a leak that was from Sony, and it appeared that it was first-party properties, and it had been uploaded. And in fact, it had like seeds through torrents and everything, and people were downloading it, but because it's 100 gigabytes, it's hard to say how much of that people were able to grab or even where it is now. The thing about that leak specifically, though, with a 100 gigabyte hard drive, it's for SCE, that's Sony Computer Entertainment, not Sony Interactive Entertainment. So that would have been like older stuff. I don't know, maybe from like the original PlayStation or PS2 era. I don't necessarily know if that would have the like God of War Ragnarok or anything else going, Spider-Man 2, those kind of things, right? But it is possible that while it was described as SCE, maybe it was off there, or maybe it was just a bunch of information kind of just compiled together from a couple of different sources within Sony. But essentially, it seems like someone has quite a bit of information around first-party properties within Sony now, and they're even going as far as to shop it around and see maybe a website or a publication wants to buy the scoop from them, and then they can report on it after that. I don't necessarily know if this is something that then related to Last of Us Part 1, although I will say Nick Baker was just posting stuff up on Twitter for Last of Us Part 1 with the control scheme, images, video of the game being played from a source. So I guess that's possible there, that maybe that was linked to this source of information that's gotten out there. And I will tell you this, Sony's pretty serious about this kind of stuff. Usually they will work to track this stuff down and make sure it gets cut down right then and there. So I'm actually a little surprised this is floating around as much as it is now. But I mean, at least with Naughty Dog, we seem to see that get leaked constantly with their different titles. But God of War is interesting, as it is kind of being teased here that there is some sort of leak that most likely will get out there ahead of them showing it off. I'm wondering if it's story related and if it's something that would even be shown before the game comes out. Like, will we just get full-on gameplay of someone going through a section of God of War Ragnarok, whether it's a QA test section where they're just checking it for quality assurance, or could it be a major plot detail? Could we maybe see Kratos using the Mjolnir hammer, and that's like a early part of the story where you fight Thor, and that ends up becoming a serious mechanic in the game? You look at the special edition, you figure the hammer is going to be used quite a bit in the game by Kratos, but yeah, interesting stuff here, because if we start seeing leaks all over the place for Sony, like God of War Ragnarok, or who knows what else they may have to show, say at maybe a big PlayStation experience in September, things can get pretty interesting pretty fast, and I feel like Sony isn't going to be too happy about that one. Next up, let's talk about reports around the next big game from the Marvel Universe, and that appears to be an open-world Black Panther game, which, if you saw the trailer for Wakanda Forever, I mean, that sounds really exciting as we're looking towards that movie in November now. Really, really excited to check that one out, but the game is, it is one of those things where you hear it and you're like, okay, cool, we're gonna get something different. It's not gonna be like a Spider-Man, Wolverine, now Black Panther, great. And then you see the logo next to it for the company that's going to publish it, and it's EA. We're gonna come back to that, okay? So let's check here though. Nabellion did a great job summarizing. This is from Jeff Grubb, by the way, over on Giant Bomb. Make sure you check out Jeff Grubb there, saying that the titled project Rainier, developed by the new studio, headlined by ex-Monolith VP Kevin Stevens and published by EA. Open world single player game where the player becomes the new Black Panther, and then it's in early development, as in this is probably a game we won't see for like 3-4 years maybe, so it's gonna be a little while. But I saw EA, and I'll admit, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, EA, and then it's like open world, it's like, EA and open world, that kind of spells out the idea of what we're used to with something like Ubisoft, where it's like Ubisoft's open world microtransaction live service. The thing with this though, it sounds like as more and more information has come out from like Jeff Grubb, that this would be more along the lines of how EA has handled like Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, again, how we assume that will be handled, where it won't be littered with microtransactions, and EA will have more of a hands-off approach, as in just make a good video game. And I think that's the best way for EA to handle it, because they just have that reputation of they're going to jam loot boxes and microtransactions and do everything. And again, if it's open world, you just see all the different ways that EA could do that. And then we see things like what's happened here with Skate going free to play, and we know that's going to be microtransactioned all over the place. People still ask when the loot boxes are going to show up in Jedi Fallen Order, or how many microtransactions and how much it's going to cost to change the color of your lightsaber in Jedi Survivor. So the way I see it is, EA, let that studio do what they need to do, create a really good Black Panther game, because I think that'd be really interesting to see how they would go about that. I think it could be a ton of fun, and it would, I think, have a nice variety to it, because we have Spider-Man. Wolverine, I think, is going to be a really cool title, and then you have Black Panther. So I like the idea of Marvel becoming more involved, in the sense of they are just licensing the properties out and letting studios who know how to make games, rather than Marvel and Disney. They try to figure it out themselves and create studio. Don't worry about all that. Just license it out and let these other studios take care of business. But it's going to be a little while. Like I said, 3 to 4 years, but I am really interested to see what this game ends up looking like. Next up, let's talk about a game that is actually on sale on PlayStation deals. Let's see what we have here. It is, Tactics Ogre Reborn on the PS4 and the PS5. It's coming out November 11th, and wait a minute, that game's not announced yet. This is the Tactics Ogre game that we've talked about for a while. It's been an ongoing saga, by the way, for this game. We had initially saw the trademark, we then saw the logo and the icon. Now we just have the entire store listing with screenshots, by the way. You can see some of those here. Gamatsu had a whole bunch of them listed. November 11th is not that, I mean, it's not that far away now. We're less than 4 months from it, 3.5 months basically from that. I'm thinking Square is just going to, I don't know, just announce this maybe on Twitter or something. This is definitely like just a remaster straight up. It looks like it's the PSP version that they're bringing over. They're doing those weird smoothing filters on it, which hopefully, if we want to, we can just turn those off. I think the biggest thing, though, is to make sure that the text matches up with like 4K resolution and everything here with the PS5 and even like the PS4 Pro. I assume this is going to go to as many platforms they can put it on. At the very least, I assume it would be PlayStation 4, PS5, and Switch. But hey, I say put Tactics Ogre everywhere they can. That game is awesome. And if you're a big Final Fantasy Tactics fan and you have never heard of Tactics Ogre, first of all, I don't know what happened there, but definitely make sure you give this one a look. And then also, can we stop for a minute and talk about how Square Enix just having a year so far? I mean, even if you look at their upcoming schedule of games, this isn't counting the stuff that's already come out. I mean, Live Alive just came out, and that game is awesome. I'm actually playing through some of the other stories now. I'm going through like the near future one with the kid who's like psychic, and it's been awesome. Like, it starts off with an entire theme song with a giant robot in it. Anyway, I mean, if you look at like the Diofield Chronicles coming up, Valkyrie Elysium, of course they are moving Nier Automata to the Switch, Harvestella, Star Ocean, The Divine Force, Dragon Quest Treasures. I'm telling you, Square Enix, while they did have some issues with things like Babylon's Fall this year, otherwise they've been on a roll right now. And then obviously they have some big titles coming up next year too. So hey, Square is just rolling along right now, and Tactics Ogre is just another game to drop in the bucket here for 2022. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, we seem to have basically everything at this point. Screenshots, release date, title. Just go ahead and announce this one, Square. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Halo Infinite again. Halo Infinite has been coming up more and more in the news, and generally it's for problems that Halo Infinite has. Go figure. This one is about the campaign co-op. As we know, it is flighting. I've tried it out. It was a lot of fun, but you do have to have friends on your friends list to get together into a party and then start up the campaign. You can't do matchmaking, and it appears they have no plans of that being a thing when the campaign co-op officially releases. In fact, we can see this. This is over on Games Radar, where they did get a comment actually from 343. They said online matchmaking will not be available with final co-op. We encourage you to continue to use the Halo LFG and the new Discord voice call feature on Xbox to find players to party up with as you continue playing the beta. So I had to think about this a little bit going back to the older days of Halo, and then I also checked in the Master Chief Collection, and I didn't think there was any kind of campaign matchmaking there either, and there isn't. I believe we had campaign matchmaking for Halo Reach. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there. But typically, I would just have some friends that would jump into the campaign co-op side of things, and we would just run it that way. I wouldn't necessarily go seeking out anyone just randomly online through matchmaking to play. Usually that would just be for the multiplayer side where we're doing like PvP and stuff like that. But still, I think 343 should be pushing the envelope here with this kind of thing. To me, it makes sense to get to that point where, yes, you can just matchmake with 3 other people if you want and go through the Halo Infinite story together. I'm hoping that's something that 343 can figure out eventually, but they never added it to Master Chief Collection, so I don't know if they're going to do it for Halo Infinite, considering they still don't just have regular co-op in there. It's been this much of a struggle to get that done. I mean, I'll cross my fingers and hope and suggest it to them, but I'm not holding my breath for the state that Halo Infinite's now. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which new video game release for August are you most excited for? Pac-Man World is the number one at 31%. Wow. It's an exciting month in August. Saints Row at 26%. I'll admit, I am getting more and more interested in at least trying out Saints Row. I just think the marketing has been pretty bad for that game all the way around. Soul Hackers 2, 22%. That'll be a good one to check out. Destroy All Humans 2 at 16%. And look at that. Madden 23 at 5%, as it should be. I'm just kidding. For anyone who likes Madden, hey, there you go. You get the next one in the series there. But, you know, Pac-Man World, that, sure, why not? It's always fun, I think, to get those remakes from time to time that you don't expect, and I did not expect to be going into August thinking I was going to play Pac-Man World from the original PlayStation, remade for like the PlayStation 5 and the Switch and everything. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Robbie saying, publishers and developers quit wasting time and money on live service games. Very few are successful and many players view them negatively due to all the extra fees you try to force in. The thing with live service games, though, we already know this by now, big publishers, they can afford to miss 90% of the time on it. As long as they hit that one that turns into a Fortnite or a Destiny 2, they're golden, they're happy with it. Like, that's one of the reasons that Sony is casting such a wide net, doing like, what, 10 live service games over the next 6 or 7 years. My only concern is we get to a point where all these companies are just so infatuated with these live service games that that's all that's coming out. There's just not enough time. Like, these live service games basically require you to just spend consistent amounts of time on it. And then I feel like eventually there just won't be enough hours in the day for all these live service games to be held up anyway. So I would prefer just to get the basic video, just video games, like not services, right? But hey, that's me and I'm old. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where Sony seemingly having a bit of a security breach there. Do you think more info is gonna leak out about God of War? Maybe something else we don't know about yet. And then also, what about a new Black Panther game? What would you like to see from it? And are you concerned that it's EA publishing it? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.